I have two patterns in the preview window, the geometric square, and I have set the size of the geometric square to 60 inches wide, 72 inches high, and I did this with the freeze aspect off. I have Laurie Thomas's Baptist fan pattern. I have the height set at 7.5 inches. And here's what I want to do is just demo an idea. And I'm going to select the geometric square, go to repeat patterns. My reference is upper left corner. I will click OK. That will place that on the screen. Now this is in fact a repeatable pattern, so I will select it, convert pattern to a boundary. Now I have a boundary to work with. My machine is in the upper left corner. I'm going to go get my Baptist fan and go to repeat patterns. On this one, I want to make the total width 60 and the total height 72. Click OK, and it puts this on the screen. However, I'm going to have a problem here on this side, and I could even have one on this side. There'll be an unquilted area. So I'll go over to the repeats and rows, and I'm going to add a couple of repeats here. I may not need them, so I'll do that. Now I'm going to select all using the select all icon, and I'll use the arrow, hold down the control key and use the left arrow key, and I'm going to move this over. I want to move it over far enough that I'll not have a problem anywhere on the edge of this quilt with an unquilted area. I'm going to zoom way in and kind of line this little area that there where it meets. Line that up with the boundary. Oops, too far. Go back. Yeah, that looks good there. And I'll go and look at the other side, and I probably can delete. I can delete all of these out here. I'll just go and hold down the control key and select them. And I could do this a different way, but I'm just going to do it one at a time like that. Get rid of them maybe. I don't think I'll need any of this, so I'll delete them. This gives me ample pattern to work with. And here's what I was thinking. I set this up like this, and this is okay down here. I'm not going to do anything with that. The top looks okay. So I will think about quilting this and, rolling the quilt. Since I have a boundary and I have the entire quilting area and all the patterns set up, I was thinking, what if I did this on an actual quilt and just left this one boundary in there like that? What would be the results? Would I have a problem as I quilt and roll due to shrinkage, since I just have one boundary set up? Well, let's kind of look at some ideas. How I would quilt this, I would select this pattern, and then I would go down and I'd do a fill inside. I know I can do this by just clicking on the icon over here. So I'll select one, and then I just go over and click the fill icon. So I want to do 2 rows before I have to roll the quilt. Do the same thing to the right side. Now, I only work with one repeat at a time, and I can go and do this repeat and this repeat without having any problems. Now I'll do this one, fill inside, then select this one and do a fill inside. Then I will quilt these. Okay, I'll quilt these 2 rows, and then I will roll the quilt. So I'm just going to toggle these as sewn. I have these 2 rows quilted now. So before I do relocate, I think I'm going to take this boundary and I'm going to convert it boundary back to a pattern. Then I'm going to right click. I'm going to do relocate, shift all to one point, let it in snap to that point, click on it with the mouse, left click, yes. Here's why I did that, because my boundary, which has now been converted back to a pattern, everything moved together. Okay, now I'll select this pattern if I can. That's the reason why I don't really use this method. I'm going to use the greater than, less than key. See if I can't see, it's hard to select that. That's really why I don't try to do this. I'll select that little, okay. See, here's what I did. I selected that one little part of that pattern, and then I hit the key down here. I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit the less than, I think is what's going to work. Yes, now the less than key selected that. Then I will go and convert it back to a boundary. Okay. I will do the fill inside. Select that one, go over here, get the icon, do the fill. Select the next one, do the fill. On the right side, fill that one. Then fill again. Okay, and I'm just pretending that I'm quilting. I'm really not quilting this, but I'll select these and I'll toggle them as sewn as if I had, in fact, quilted it. Okay, it's sewn. I'm going to do the relocate again. I'm going to go over and I'm going to convert the boundary back to a pattern. I'll right click and I'll do the relocate, shift all to one point. I'm going to use that point. That's the bottom of that. Click yes. Okay, that pattern that I converted to a, or the boundary I converted to a pattern is now is going to move with everything. But here's the problem I have. So let's say I do this, and again, to make it easy to select this, because it is a pattern now, I'm going to select just this little part and use the less than key, and it should select, yes it did. I can right click and I convert the pattern to a boundary again. Now I still have my boundary and it's all over everything. Here's my problem. The reason why I would never attempt to do this myself, because I know that as long as I've been quilting, I'm going to have shrinkage in this quilt. And this boundary is not going to hold true all the way down the side of this quilt on the either the left or the right, either one. And if I do this, I'm really not going to know where the true edge of the quilt is. So how I do it is I would quilt these first 2 rows, then I would delete my old boundary and I would draw a new boundary and quilt the next 2 rows. And after I finished that, I would delete the old boundary. And after I got the quilt rolled and do a relocate, I would draw a new boundary around the next 2 rows. I'll start above because remember, I'm going to do fill, and you want to make sure you start a little bit above up here. So I'm going to just delete this boundary. And I'll just use my mouse, and I do want to follow the actual edge of the quilt. So as I quilt, I may have some shrinkage, but I can use a boundary. I'm going to just draw this on the screen instead of with the machine right now because I'm not stitching this. So I'll go Alt B, and that'll let me draw a boundary. I'll turn off the end snap, and you always want to start your boundary a little bit above the bottom of the last row that was stitched. Put a point there. I'll draw a boundary right down, and you always want to go below the bottom of the last row that you can stitch. Put a point. I'll go all the way over to the other side. Put a point there. I'll go up above. I'll hit, on this case, just the right mouse button, and if I was doing this with a machine, I'd hit the stop button, the bottom center button. There's my boundary, see? Now, when I do this with the machine, I can compensate for any shrinkage or any variation in the width of the quilt itself. But if I would have left that one boundary, I may have had a problem before I got to the end of the quilt. That's why I would never do this that way. I would not ever attempt to do that in that way. So this is just an idea, and I hope some of you gained some benefit from this video. And you can let me know if you watch it. You can email me privately or email to the list, whichever you want to, and tell me what you think.